Long before the Bible was complete. Long before the book of Revelation was ever written. One man claimed he entered heaven itself. Not in a dream. Not through a vision that faded with the morning. But into the very presence of God. There, he described walls of living fire. A throne that blazed brighter than the sun. Thousands upon thousands of heavenly beings. And a glory so overwhelming that no human eyes could fully comprehend it. This wasn't Isaiah. It wasn't Ezekiel. It wasn't John. It was Enoch. A man mentioned only briefly in Genesis, yet whose extraordinary account has sparked debate for thousands of years. Some believe his writings preserve one of the greatest revelations ever recorded. Others argue they should never have been trusted at all. But one question refuses to disappear. Did the Book of Enoch actually reveal what God looks like? Tonight, we're opening one of history's most mysterious ancient texts to separate what Enoch truly wrote, from what people have claimed ever since. Before we continue, if you're fascinated by ancient mysteries, forgotten civilizations, and the hidden stories behind the Bible, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We release documentaries like this every week, exploring the darkest and most mysterious chapters of history. Now, let's begin where the mystery itself begins. Enoch appears in the Bible for only a few verses. Yet those few verses have puzzled readers for centuries. Genesis tells us something astonishing. Enoch walked with God. Then, without warning, the story takes a dramatic turn. He was no more, because God took him. That's it. No description of his death. No burial. No final words. Unlike Abraham. Unlike Moses. Unlike David. The Bible never says Enoch died. For ancient readers, that single detail raised an extraordinary question. Where did he go? Over time, Jewish tradition began filling in the silence. Stories emerged describing Enoch as a man chosen to witness the hidden realities of heaven. According to these writings, he wasn't simply taken away. He was shown things no other human had ever seen. The movements of the stars. The punishment of rebellious angels. The structure of heaven itself. And finally, the throne of God. These traditions were eventually collected into what we now call one Enoch, commonly known as the Book of Enoch. Although it isn't part of most modern biblical canons, the book was highly respected by many Jewish communities before the time of Jesus. Its influence was so widespread that copies were later discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, confirming that it was read centuries before Christianity spread across the Roman world. Even the New Testament's letter of Jude closely echoes a prophecy attributed to Enoch, showing that his story remained well known among early believers. Whether someone accepts the book as inspired scripture, ancient religious literature, or simply an important historical text, one fact is difficult to ignore. For thousands of years, people have been captivated by what Enoch claimed to have witnessed. Much of the Book of Enoch reads unlike anything found elsewhere in ancient literature. Enoch is guided by heavenly messengers through places no ordinary human was meant to see. He visits prisons prepared for fallen angels. He witnesses the storehouses of snow and hail. He sees the paths followed by the sun, the moon, and the stars. Every chapter pulls him farther away from earth and deeper into the mysteries of heaven. But everything changes when we reach chapter 14. This is the moment that has fascinated scholars, theologians, and curious readers for generations. Enoch no longer observes creation from a distance. Instead, he approaches the dwelling place of God himself. What happens next becomes one of the most vivid descriptions of the heavenly throne room ever recorded. Not because Enoch claims to see God's face clearly, but because he struggles to explain a glory beyond anything human language can capture. As Enoch draws near, he doesn't begin by describing God. He describes the overwhelming holiness surrounding him. He enters a vast house unlike anything on earth. Its walls shimmer like crystal. Its ceiling shines with the brilliance of the stars. Living fire surrounds every side. The entire structure seems alive. Then, beyond this first chamber, he sees another house. Greater. More terrifying. At its center stands an immense throne. Not carved from stone. Not crafted by human hands. Its appearance is entirely fire. Flames pour from beneath it. Its wheels blaze with brilliant light. Countless heavenly beings stand before it in reverent silence. And as Enoch slowly approaches, he realizes he is about to witness something no human was ever meant to see. In the next act, Enoch finally attempts to describe the one seated upon the throne, and his words have fueled debate for centuries. Imagine standing at the edge of eternity. Every step forward feels impossible. Not because someone is stopping you, but because the overwhelming presence before you is unlike anything you've ever known. This is where Enoch's account reaches its most dramatic moment. After passing through walls of crystal and rivers of fire, he finally stands before the throne. For centuries, many people have claimed that this is the moment Enoch reveals what God actually looks like. But if we read the text carefully, that's not exactly what happens. Instead of giving a detailed physical description, Enoch focuses on something far greater. The indescribable glory surrounding the one seated upon the throne. According to Enoch's account, the throne itself appeared to be made entirely of blazing fire. Its wheels were also burning. This imagery immediately reminds many readers of another ancient vision. Centuries later, the prophet Ezekiel would describe God's heavenly chariot with wheels that appeared alive and filled with divine glory. Whether these similarities reflect a shared tradition or literary influence is still debated by scholars. But one thing is clear. Both visions describe God's throne as something beyond ordinary human experience. Fire, throughout Scripture, often represents God's holiness, purity, and judgment. It isn't merely decoration. It's a reminder that the Creator is utterly different from His creation. To approach Him is to approach perfect holiness. Then comes the passage that has fascinated readers for centuries. Enoch writes that the one seated upon the throne wore garments brighter than the sun. His clothing was described as whiter than snow. His glory outshone every light. Then Enoch says something extraordinary. No angel could enter God's presence and look directly upon His face because of His overwhelming majesty. Notice what Enoch does not say. He never describes God's eye color. He never describes facial features. He never attempts to portray God as an ordinary human figure. Instead, every description points beyond physical appearance. The focus is on radiant holiness. Blinding light. Absolute purity. Infinite majesty. In other words, Enoch isn't painting a portrait. He's describing an encounter with a reality that human language can barely contain. This is where many modern interpretations begin to drift away from the original text. Some videos. Some books. Even some online articles confidently claim that Enoch described God's exact appearance. But the ancient text is far more careful. Again and again, it emphasizes brilliance. Fire. Light. Purity. and glory. The message isn't that God resembles a human king sitting on a magnificent chair. The message is that God's holiness is beyond human comprehension. Enoch repeatedly reaches the limits of language. Rather than claiming certainty, he uses comparisons. Like crystal. Like fire. Whiter than snow. It's the language of someone trying to describe the indescribable. Before we continue, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Enoch was describing a literal journey into heaven? Or do you think this vision was symbolic, using human language to express something beyond human understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd genuinely love to hear your perspective. Because what happens next may be the most misunderstood part of the entire Book of Enoch. Enoch has now reached the throne. He has witnessed a glory unlike anything recorded before him. But his journey isn't over. Because the vision suddenly expands beyond the throne room itself, revealing a heavenly kingdom filled with countless angels, divine judgment, and mysteries that continue to influence religious thought to this day. In Act 3, we'll uncover what Enoch saw beyond the throne, and why many believe it reshapes our understanding of heaven itself. Most people stop reading after Enoch reaches the throne. But the Book of Enoch doesn't. In fact, the vision is only beginning. As Enoch stands before the blazing throne, he notices something remarkable. The throne is not alone. Surrounding it are countless heavenly beings. The text describes multitudes standing before the presence of God, continually serving him. Their numbers are beyond calculation. No names are given. No conversations are recorded. Instead, Enoch emphasizes their complete reverence. There is no chaos. No competition. No rebellion. Everything is perfectly ordered around the one seated on the throne. It's a striking contrast to what Enoch had witnessed earlier in the book. Because before entering heaven's throne room, he had already seen another group of spiritual beings. The Watchers. Earlier in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are introduced as heavenly beings who abandoned their appointed place. According to the narrative, they descended to earth, took human wives, and shared forbidden knowledge with humanity. The book attributes to them teachings about warfare, weapon-making, occult practices, astrology, cosmetics, and other arts that Enoch presents as contributing to human corruption. Whether one reads this literally or symbolically, the contrast is unmistakable. The Watchers left God's order. The heavenly beings around the throne remained faithful. One group sought its own desires. The other existed only to serve the Creator. This contrast becomes one of the central themes of the Book of Enoch. The greatest divide in the universe isn't between heaven and earth. It's between obedience and rebellion. Enoch's journey wasn't only about seeing heaven. It was also about witnessing judgment. The rebellious Watchers are not portrayed as victorious. According to the book, they are already awaiting God's final judgment. Some are described as being held in places of confinement until the appointed time. This wasn't written merely to satisfy curiosity about angels. It carried a message for its original audience. Power does not place anyone above accountability. Even heavenly beings are answerable to the Creator. In Enoch's vision, God's throne isn't simply beautiful. It is also the place from which justice flows. Every decision, every kingdom, every creature, ultimately answers to the one seated there. This is where many readers miss the heart of the vision. The Book of Enoch is not trying to answer the question, what does God's face look like? Instead, it asks a much bigger question. What is God like? Throughout the vision, the answer is remarkably consistent. God is holy. God is just. God is beyond comparison. Every image points toward those truths. The fire. The crystal. The brilliant garments. The throne. The countless heavenly beings. None of these exist simply to impress the reader. They exist to communicate something words cannot fully express. The Creator is unlike anything in creation. And that realization leaves Enoch speechless. Although the Book of Enoch is not included in most modern biblical canons, its imagery echoes through later religious literature. Readers often notice similarities between Enoch's heavenly scenes and the throne visions in Ezekiel, Daniel, and Revelation. Scholars debate exactly how these texts influenced one another, but together they have shaped how many people imagine the throne room of heaven. And yet, one question still remains. If Enoch's vision was so influential, why was his book left out of most Bibles? That answer is even more fascinating than the vision itself. In the final act, we'll explore the history of the Book of Enoch, why it disappeared from most biblical canons, and what we can, and cannot, conclude from its extraordinary account. If the Book of Enoch contains one of the most breathtaking visions of heaven ever written, why isn't it in most Bibles? It's a question that has puzzled readers for generations. Some claim powerful leaders removed it because it revealed forbidden knowledge. Others believe it was deliberately hidden to keep people from learning the truth. Those ideas make for compelling stories. But when we examine the historical evidence, the picture is more complex. The reality isn't a tale of one secret meeting where someone decided to erase Enoch from history. Instead, it reflects centuries of discussion about which books should be recognized as scripture. For many centuries, the Book of Enoch was known throughout the ancient world. Fragments of it were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, showing that Jewish communities were reading it before the time of Jesus. The New Testament letter of Jude even quotes a prophecy attributed to Enoch. That has led many people to ask, if Jude quotes Enoch, doesn't that prove the entire book belongs in the Bible? Not necessarily. Biblical authors sometimes referenced works familiar to their audiences without declaring every part of those works to be scripture. Over time, most Jewish communities did not include one Enoch in the Hebrew Bible. Likewise, most Christian traditions did not include it in their Old Testament. One notable exception is the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, which has preserved one Enoch as part of its biblical canon for centuries. So rather than disappearing completely, the book survived in different ways across different religious traditions. After reading Enoch's vision carefully, one conclusion becomes difficult to ignore. The book never claims to show God in ordinary human terms. It doesn't describe his face in detail. It doesn't measure his height. It doesn't attempt to define his physical form. Instead, it surrounds him with symbols of holiness. Fire. Light. Crystal. Purity. Majesty. Again and again, Enoch reaches for comparisons because ordinary language is not enough. Perhaps that's the point. The vision isn't inviting us to imagine God as another created being. It's reminding us that the Creator transcends every human description. The closer Enoch comes to God's presence, the fewer words seem capable of explaining what he experiences. Maybe the greatest mystery of the Book of Enoch isn't what God looks like. Maybe it's why humanity has always wanted to reduce the infinite to something familiar. Across history, people have painted images, written poems, created icons, produced films, and imagined countless pictures of heaven. Yet Enoch leaves us with something very different. Not certainty. Wonder. His account doesn't eliminate mystery. It deepens it. Whether you believe the Book of Enoch is inspired by Scripture, an important ancient Jewish text, or simply a fascinating work of religious literature, its vision has shaped the imagination of millions. For more than 2,000 years, readers have returned to its pages asking the same question. What did Enoch really see? Perhaps the answer isn't found in a detailed description of God's appearance, but in Enoch's repeated reminder that God's glory is beyond anything human language can fully capture. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into history's greatest mysteries. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think Enoch truly entered heaven, or was his vision meant to communicate spiritual truths through powerful symbolism? Share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time. Keep searching the past, because history still has secrets waiting to be uncovered.